Hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by the sister of Melissa Platt, Michelle Mims. And I'm so happy to have you here. You and I first started talking about, 2 years ago now? A little longer than that, maybe?
Yeah, getting close to that, yeah.
Yes. We first did a video on Melissa's case on my channel a while back. I'm sure some of you have seen it. And Michelle is here today to go over the case again and also let us know about a bunch of updates that are going on in the case and ways that you guys can actually help. That's going to be huge today. You guys are going to be able to take action. And I know that you all always do an amazing job with that. And we are able to see movement in a lot of cases, especially this one so far. It's been incredible to see.
Yes.
So I wanted to get that out there first, that we do have a couple of ways that you can help. And that information will be in a pinned comment and the description box, show notes if you're on Spotify, iTunes. And yeah,
sometimes people just need a little bit of a nudge in the right direction.
Yep.
Especially when they're just dragging their feet on stuff and not working, as efficiently as they should be. And I mean, we're going to get into it, but just the amount of time that you, Michelle, have spent on this and just trying to get something moving in the right direction. And I just want to commend you first of all for your strength and ability to just even come on the podcast. I mean, I know it can be a big ask to come on to a public platform and be so open and share, such a personal story and case, with the world, really. And we're just so thankful to have you here. So I just wanted to say that to you. And for us, doing this every week when it's just Kendall and myself is one thing, but when we actually get to talk to victims' families, it brings a whole new level. I can't even put it into words the way that it makes at least me feel, and I know you and Janelle feel the same way, but it just makes it feel so much more real. But also we just feel the connection, the love that's there, that you're doing this out of pure love for your loved one, and you want to see them get the justice that they absolutely deserve.
Yep.
And expose the horrible police work, and just multiple individuals that just have absolutely done nothing to help aid in that fight for justice. So
this case
that's what we're here for.
Very shocking. Just to warn you ahead of time. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yes. So first of all, you came all the way from Texas.
Yep.
Thank you so much for making the flight out here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're one of our first family members that have come on the show. It's been a while since we've had anyone since pre-pandemic.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, and everything that you've done has been so amazing. I know you have a few updates to tell us about today, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Some huge updates.
Yeah, some big updates. You've gotten a lot done so far.
Yeah, there's been a lot that's happened since the last time the video went up that you did. So many people came out to support, signing a petition, donating to the GoFundMe that we opened to get a private investigator.
Yep.
That was huge. And I was able to hire one who has done an amazing job. It's him and a few members of his team that have been working on this. And, through their actions, they met with a woman named Karen Kelly, who is basically the person who has the power to change a death certificate. And changing the cause of death on a death certificate is not common at all.
Almost unheard of, really.
Almost unheard of, exactly. So, my PI team met with her, went over everything. She was floored at how well of a job the PI team did. She said she had never seen something put together so well, so professionally. And she wholeheartedly believed my sister was the victim of homicide. And, she went through all the motions and she actually fast-tracked it. And she was able to get the death certificate changed from undetermined, which is what it had been for years and years and years, to homicide due to assault and closed head injury. And another amazing thing that we didn't expect to happen, my PI team didn't even expect to happen. Karen was so invested in this, and she was saying there's just such an injustice that was done that she brought up the case to multiple, like forensic pathologists, medical examiners, chief medical examiners, and a conference. And they all went over the case file, and every one of them wholeheartedly believed that, like, this is a homicide for sure. And they all wrote letters and signed their names to that effect. And they would be willing to go to trial and testify to such, which I was so floored when I heard about this. The PI team, we were just completely blown away that she would take the time. And I feel like that goes to show what an injustice happened, that you've got so many professionals in the forensic pathologist field, all of that, who are willing to go to bat for us. And that was amazing. So the death certificate was changed, which was huge. And the case ended up getting reopened, like officially.
Amazing.
Which I never thought I'd see the day, to be honest.
To be honest, I didn't think we were going to see this much happen that quickly. To have the case reopened, death certificate changed. And, it's interesting. I think anyone that hears the details of this case, just as an average person listening to true crime, you are going to be like, oh, yeah, this is definitely has to be a homicide.
Right.
But it's really reassuring to hear that there's so many experts in the medical field that also agree and back that up and are willing to stand by you and see justice be carried out. And hopefully one day we'll, get to celebrate that actually happening.
I hope so.
Yeah. Holding the person responsible for the death of your sister is going to be the ultimate goal here, obviously.
Yes.
And we've got steps in the right direction now, at least. At least the case is back open, which means law enforcement's taking another look at it. Hopefully different set of eyes this time. And hopefully the right people can piece together, the little information that was taken from the initial investigation and, get this to a grand jury and actually get charges brought against the individual responsible. Because, ultimately it's great to have, these little wins, but, to have true justice in this case, you want to see that person who is responsible behind bars for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
This case will blow you away at the negligence that was done on the behalf of the police department, and just the fact that this is one of those cases that to them looked like sort of not necessarily an accidental death, but just sort of an individual whose life was falling apart, and therefore that led to their tragic death. But there's just no way possible that is the case here. And that's what we're going to look into. And like Kendall said, this is graphic in nature, and just it's horrific what happened to Melissa. So I just want to preface that to anybody. It does have to do with domestic violence and abuse. So, just want to put that out there for those that, might be triggered by something like this. So,
yes.
Also, just for legal reasons, everyone that we mentioned in this episode is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So let's start with Melissa, because, I don't want to just focus on her death and all the horrible things that happened to her. Let's talk about her life. And, she was on this earth for a long time. She was your sister, and I'm sure you have many good memories with her. And just let's talk about, her time here and what it was like to have her as your sister and
who she really was.
Yeah, exactly.
And my sister was such a special person. She had such a kind heart. We were so close. People used to say, y'all are two peas in the pod, because we were always together. Just, she ended up having 2 daughters of her own, and she was so thrilled when that happened. And I was just so happy for her, because I knew she always wanted to be a mother. Yeah. One of my last, really, really good memories with her is her, me, my mom, rest of my family going to Disney World and Universal Studios and just going on all the rides. And it just holds a special place in my heart, because I have such a good memory of those times. But Melissa is just, she was kind of introverted until she got to know you.
Yeah.
And then once she got to know you, she was just the silliest, just a goofball, always joking around. I remember times where we would watch scary movies, and we would go to sleep and have nightmares and freak out and talk about our nightmares. But then we would do the same thing the next day because we absolutely love to watch scary movies.
That's
I know,
awesome.
it was ridiculous. Like we would do the same thing, even though we knew what the outcome would be. But I mean, we were always hanging out. We had each other's backs. Yeah. When I lost her, a piece of me was gone, which is always going to be gone. Yeah. And I felt like not only was she my sister, she was my best friend. I could tell her anything. She could tell me anything. And we have so many good memories, thankfully. But this can overshadow the absolute horrific nature of what happened to her. But I always try to think back on those good times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that I'm not really consumed by the bad.
Yeah, I think that's really important to honor her memory that way. And, remember how close you guys were, and that bond between sisters is so special. And you were just telling us this picture. You were actually in that photo, right?
Right. Yeah, I was sitting next to her, and this is around the time we went to Disney, and just that smile on her face.
Pure
she
joy.
smiled all the time.
Yeah.
She was beautiful, and just like I said, a heart of gold. And she's done so much to help me because I've been through a lot of things when I was younger as well, and I always knew I could count on her, and she was always there for me. Yeah,
it's incredible. I'm glad you got to have her in those years.
Yeah.
So did you guys grow up in Houston then, Houston, Texas, or did you just live there for a short time when she was born? And kind of take us through just, sort of your childhood and your family and your parents and sort of what life was like for you guys all together.
Okay. We were born in Houston. We lived kind of on a suburb outside of Houston called Baytown. And that's really where we grew up. We had moved to North Carolina for a little bit, maybe 5 years. And then we came back and lived here. And then when she turned like 18, she left and went back to North Carolina because I have another sister that lives in North Carolina as well. Mm-hmm. So she moved out there and, started a life out there.
So you have a brother as well, Michael Jr., and then your sister's Maria.
Maria.
Okay. And Melissa was born February 3rd, 1977.
That's right.
That's correct. Okay. And your parents, Marianne and Michael?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Are they both still here?
My mom, my dad sadly passed away from lung cancer in 2010. And that's another really difficult hit for my family because, he never saw justice for her. And he was fighting so hard those last couple of years of his life to get the word out. Every year a packet would be put together. My mom would have pictures of Melissa's injuries, a letter about how this whole thing's affected my family. And she would send it to, and my dad would help out with this too, would send it to the police, to Joey, and also to the district attorney. And I think that it was the fact that we would do that every single year and nothing. We might get a letter back from a district attorney saying, oh, we're so sorry, but essentially there's nothing we can do. And then you could tell, now from what I know now that they hadn't even looked at the information.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, I could tell. So that was a really difficult time for us when we lost my dad too.
And you still send that letter every year, right?
Oh yeah, it gets sent every year.
Good for you. Is it the same letter, or do you guys kind of add new information? Or
there's some new information, but we definitely send it on what would have been Melissa's birthday, February 3rd. That's definitely a time we do it. And then December 17th, when she was pronounced dead, taken off life support. So yeah, those letters are always sent.
So those just went out.
They
probably are still sitting on someone's desk.
Yeah, probably.
So when Melissa was a newborn, she was hospitalized for a little while, right? She had severe colic and low blood sugar.
Yep.
So that must have been really hard on your mom and kind of a rocky start to her life as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So she was hospitalized for a full month after her birth.
For quite some time.
Wow. But other than that, she had a pretty healthy childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, no major problems at all.
So she was very adventurous too. That's what you were telling us. She had an upbeat personality.
Very, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love this
always
picture
joking
of her
around
in the little cheerleading outfit.
Oh yeah,
so
she loved it.
Cute.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
that embodies her, just or the spirit she had, and just wanting to make people smile and joking around. We both had just about the same sense of humor.
Really?
So we understood each other.
So whose idea was it to ride down the stairs on pieces of cardboard and jump off the roof?
So about that, no, both of us really, when it came to riding down the stairs, we both were like, hey, this might work, right? There was no railing on the stairs, mind you. We were like, surely it'll take us just straight down.
Yeah.
And she went down without a hitch, no problem. When I went down, the cardboard went over the edge, and I fell off, and I rolled, and I smashed my head into the wash machine. I was like, you would think that I would be like, oh no, but I was like, awesome, let's do it again, and right back up to do it now. Now the mattress thing on the outside, no, that was not my idea. Melissa was like, come on, let's do it, because there was this this window that we could get out onto the roof.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, yeah, let's do this. And I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, well, at least let me help put the mattress. That'll break our fall. Surely we won't break anything, And so I pulled it out, and it was so funny because neighborhood kids started hearing what we were doing, and then we had a crowd.
Oh yeah.
And so she went off, rolled. She was totally fine. And I'm like, oh, well now I have to. Everybody's watching me, and they're going to make fun of me. They're never going to let me live this down.
Yeah.
So it's like, let me go ahead and do that. And we would do silly things like that. Like we would do mud fights around the outside of the house, and just, mud, throw it at each other. And we were so dumb because we would throw and miss, and they would splat on the side of the house. So there was mud splats everywhere, and my mom came home from work. She's like, what's going on? I don't know, Mom. Kids must have done something. I have no idea how that got there. She's
so
like,
funny.
Clean it.
Was Maria as adventurous as the two of you?
Not in that way, no.
The good child.
Right, exactly. She's like, I ain't getting all of that.
But your mom would dress you guys up similar, almost like you were triplets, right?
She would.
That's very cute.
Did
all the M names too.
Did you guys go to the same school, and did you kind of follow each other at school, or were you kind of what was your experience like together?
Now Maria, she was older than me. Now she was born in 1973, so yeah, she was a good 8 years older than me. Mm-hmm. But me and Melissa did go to the same school, so and yeah, we would hang out as much as we could, and help each other. Like, oh, I got this test, help me, and she would help me, and I would help her, depending on the subject. But yeah, we ended up going to the same schools. Yeah, because she was only a couple years older than me, so yeah.
Close enough that you can still relate on stuff, and
absolutely,
you had similar experiences because you might have had some of the same teachers, maybe.
We sure did. Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, remember so and so?
Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Be prepared for this.
Do you have any other favorite memories from school or funny memories from school?
When it comes to school, I kind of felt bad for Melissa one time because this girl was picking on her and was trying to pick a fight with her. And my sister was just not that type of person. I remember being there and leave me alone. And so I jumped in, and stood in front of my sister. I said, if you're going to, go after her, you're going to have to come through me. And
that's right.
I'm like, it's going to have to be both of us. And that girl was like, oh, and she's kind of,
never mind,
disappeared into the crowd of people. Oh. And yeah. I just remember she would have stood up for me, and I'm like, I'm going to stand up for her. And so I don't know, it just bonded us even more.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
She was like, oh my God, thank you for, and I'm like, I would do it in a heartbeat again,
That's really sweet. So when Melissa was 8, you guys moved to Jacksonville, like you were saying earlier.
Yep.
And you guys only were there for 4 years before moving back to Texas. And you lived in Baytown.
That's right.
That's correct.
Which again, that's Jacksonville, North Carolina, not Jacksonville, Florida.
That's right.
Yeah. Did I
a lot of people think Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
North Carolina,
that's true.
But yeah.
It's always weird when there's cities that are, big cities in other states, and you say Jacksonville, people just assume Jacksonville, Florida. But
yeah, that's true. And my older sister lived in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So when Melissa was 15, she got a job working at McDonald's planning the little kids' birthday parties.
Yes.
And she loved that. Yeah.
She loved it. And the McDonald's in Baytown had this separate little like train caboose looking thing
Yeah.
that they used and like refitted for these parties.
Oh, fun.
She'd have her little party hat on. And I mean, she threw herself into this job. She absolutely loved it. She loved kids. So she was so proud of that job.
What a fun
that's
job,
awesome.
though.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my God.
Did you ever have a McDonald's birthday party?
I didn't. How is that?
That was like a
Thinking about
long
it.
time ago. So I think I had like 2. Because I remember when I was like in 3rd grade, I had a McDonald's caboose party too.
Oh, nice.
It was like, it was like they had an actual train caboose outside the McDonald's, and then they would like decorate it and everything. And then when I was even younger, like maybe like 2, I have photos of me in a McDonald's with like the McDonald's cake and candles and stuff.
And Ronald
yeah.
Big
comes,
fan
right?
of McDonald's birthday
Yes.
parties.
Didn't they used to have like someone dressed as Ronald and come in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would do the whole
They
whole
would
thing.
do the whole shebang. And I remember going to Baytown to see my mom a few years ago. And I, just for old time's sake, I drove by that McDonald's and that thing was still there.
Wow.
Oh, I was just like, it was real emotional. I'm like, oh my God. Just knowing she used to be in there, doing something that made her happy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
at 15, I'm sure that was so much fun. Like, what a great
heck yeah.
first job.
Definitely.
That's
like
awesome.
lucky mine was at Kmart. Like, I mean, I can't complain. I was stocking the toy department, which I absolutely loved. You know what I mean? So, I can't complain about it.
So Maria eventually moved back to Jacksonville. And then when Melissa was 16, she joined her there.
That's right.
And did she like living in North Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah, she did.
How do the 2 towns sort of compare? Like how are they? Was it like a different experience living in North Carolina versus Texas? Was there things you liked about Baytown versus Jacksonville, or was it just kind of, obviously kid, you're probably not thinking too hard on those things, but do you have any like memories like between the differences?
Yeah, the part of Jacksonville that we were in was more country versus the more city life in Baytown.
Okay.
So, I think she really enjoyed just a more country vibe versus, like outside of a huge city like Houston.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So October 1st, 1995, Melissa's dream comes true and she has her first daughter, Brianna.
That's right.
How's she doing now?
She's doing good.
Okay.
She, I keep in contact with them and
Good.
They've been so thankful for everything because I know they were worried that nothing would ever happen as well. And I told them I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going no matter what. And so they're doing good. Like Brianna, we had a scare with her when she was born. She had a hole in her heart. She had a cleft lip and she had to go through multiple surgeries. She was actually the Miracle Children's Network, one of the poster childs one year. Doctors would say that she wouldn't live past 5. And she's thriving now.
Wow, that's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're adorable.
And she looks so much like Melissa. I mean, and Chastity is her other daughter. They just look, gosh, I see Melissa in them so much. It just, warms my heart to see that.
So when she was having those surgeries, they spent a lot of time at Ronald McDonald House, right?
Yes, they did.
It's an amazing charity.
Yeah, they were a lifesaver at the time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So was that happening in North Carolina then, or is that okay?
North Carolina.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then in 2001, she got married and she had her second daughter, Chastity.
That's right.
July 4th, 2003. And then her and her husband got divorced in 2005.
Right.
What do you remember about that time? How was that for Melissa? I'm sure that was a very difficult time to go through.
It was a difficult time. It wasn't the best situation, and I'm glad she finally had recognized it and, the toxic nature of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad she separated from that and got away. Unfortunately, as we all know, she ended up with somebody much, much worse,
Also, side note, Melissa was an animal lover.
Yes.
She had a pet parrot named Alvin.
Yes.
That's amazing.
She loved animals.
Parrots are so cool.
Parrots are cool. We had a parrot, the funniest thing. So, we'd wake up in the morning and the parrot would be like, psst. It would like make this psst sound.
Oh, really?
And I'd walk over to the cage and he'd be like, let me out. And I'd be like, no. He's like, he'd walk up to me and he'd be like, let me out. And so I'm like, fine. And I'd open the cage and he would crawl out and go to the top and he would just laugh at me. Just I'm
they're
like, how
so smart.
dare you?
That's insane.
You snide parrot. How dare you?
That's so funny.
I loved him so much.
What kind of parrot was it, or what color was it?
It was a yellow crowned
Okay.
parrot.
Cool.
That's very cool.
Parrots are so cool. The
Yeah,
fact that they're
They are.
able to like learn English words is so amazing, and also kind of scary at the same time.
And it
I know, right?
It's
It
kind of
goes both
creepy at the
ways,
same
but
time.
man,
Yeah, it really is.
It's
Especially
cute,
the
but you're
fact
right.
that they know when to use
Yeah.
those words.
There's this
Let
pet
me know.
store
He
that I
goes
used
back what
to.
he's saying.
There's this pet store in Oklahoma I used to go to, and the owner had his macaw parrot like on this perch in the middle of the store, and he would like
Oh yeah.
he would say things to customers. You'd be like walking by, I was like, "I see you." And I'm like,
right?
"Are you gonna buy something?" Like it
Oh
would
my
like make
gosh.
little
Funny.
remarks to you as you like walked around or picked stuff up. It was like watching you. I'm like, God, these animals are so smart.
Right. You're like, I don't know whether to be impressed or creeped out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But they can also be incredibly annoying too. They can,
They
Oh, yeah.
can.
they can just like go off, or if they know curse words, they can be very obnoxious with those too.
Right, that's
it's pretty
true.
funny, but they can definitely be annoying.
For sure.
Whether it's saving more, spending less, or getting organized, or losing weight, there's a lot of worthwhile goals to set for yourself this year. At the top of my list is learning a new language with Babbel, the language learning app that's sold more than 10 million subscriptions. I've been using Babbel to learn Spanish. I've always wanted to learn Spanish. I really didn't take it seriously in high school, but I've really started picking up things very quickly with Babbel. Not only is learning a new language a fun and engaging new hobby, you can use it while you check off traveling more from your list. The whole Babbel process is addictively fun, fast, and easy, as Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons for real-world use. And I think that's where sometimes it goes wrong in high school, is that it's just too long to be learning a new language. An hour and a half long class, 15 minutes is the sweet spot. With Babbel's 15-minute lessons, they make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. So everybody's got 15 minutes. You know, I spend 15 minutes in the bathroom in the morning, and that's where I get my Babbel lesson in. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective, and with Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. And right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code MileHigher. That's BABBEL.com. Use code MileHigher, because Babbel is language for life.
I'm sure most of you know what HelloFresh is, but if you don't, here is why HelloFresh is so awesome. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Customize your favorite dishes with their new Hello Custom offerings by swapping out one protein or side for another, upgrading for a more luxe experience, or even adding protein to a veggie meal. That means more choices, more variety, and more meals truly tailored to you. HelloFresh helps you cut back on time that you spend in the kitchen with meals ready in 30 minutes or less. Plus, their quick and easy meals, including 20-minute recipes and low prep and easy cleanup options, provide an even faster route to putting food on your table. HelloFresh is also 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. You can save on average $65 per month when you order HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. That's money back in your pocket. Josh and I love HelloFresh because it just makes our lives easier. We don't have to think about what we're going to have for dinner that night. It's already in the fridge, ready to go with a recipe, and it's always easy. It's always delicious. It's a great service. So go to HelloFresh.com/MileHigher16 and use code MileHigher16 for up to 16 free meals and get 3 free gifts as well. That's an awesome deal. Go to HelloFresh.com/MileHigher16 with code MileHigher16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts.
Okay, so in 2005, obviously this was a rough time. You know, she's just gotten divorced. She was also facing some legal troubles because she was charged with writing bad checks in Onslow County, North Carolina. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that, sort of why she did this, and, you know, sort of how that all went down?
Yeah, she was experiencing some pretty bad financial situation, and she did go to the store and got food.
Just wrote checks that
she knew that she wouldn't be able to fulfill. And that's what that was all about.
Okay. Which it's like, how can you really blame somebody for doing that when they're just trying to get food?
Right.
So,
right.
So how did like the store like report? Like how did she actually get in trouble legally with that?
My understanding is the store started it and contacted the police.
Okay.
And I don't know if they got with financial institution the checks came from. I don't know 100% of the details on that. Okay. Unfortunately, but
I know I'm just trying to remember. I'm like, it's been so long since any of us like you wrote checks.
I know.
Like, writing bad checks. What does that even mean?
I know.
Like I know people do like print fraudulent checks, but that's like a whole nother level now. But back then, I guess if you wrote a check that you knew was going to bounce, that'd technically be a bad check.
Yeah,
this was only like 15 years ago. It's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, a very long time. Like checks, what are those?
So then a year later, in 2006, Melissa met a guy named Joey Tyndall at the auto parts store where she worked.
That's right.
And Joey worked at the Barnhill Construction Company. He also had a history of domestic violence before he met Melissa, and he actually had 2 ex-wives that were very afraid of him.
That's true.
Do you know really like how did she get involved with him? Like what do you know how did she talk to you about like how they met, or like what enticed her to start talking to Joey and sort of enter into a relationship with him?
I think it's like with a lot of narcissistic people and even sociopathic people, how they can lay on the charm. Right. You know what I mean?
So he's got those elements then.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's able to kind of, snow you over and make you think he's somebody that he's really not. And then you end up seeing the true colors, as time goes by.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. I think she, fell for a version of him that wasn't true.
Well, and he's already has experience with this because he's got ex-wives that have had very bad experiences with him.
Very bad.
So he's kind of, he's been at this game for a while now, and I guess he's kind of figured out how to, get what he wants, really.
Exactly.
And do it in a way that's, so with Joey, when did you first meet him, or, what was your first impression of him?
I have not had a good impression of him.
Like day one, you're like, something's just off with him.
Yeah, just from things, that she would talk about that I thought were I was like, that sounds pretty controlling to me. And I just felt like there was this narcissistic personality behind this whole thing. So I have not, since day one, had a good impression of him.
Did you ever meet him in person?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And what did you think when you met him?
I found him to be incredibly, he just was an off-putting. There was just something weird about him, And I had met him this one time, and I was like, man, I got a bad feeling about this guy, But Melissa, I would try to talk to her.
Would you?
And, she didn't see it, You can only do what you can do. I'm just like, I think this guy's bad news. But it didn't stop her.
What were some of those behaviors that Melissa told you about? Some of the control tactics that Joey would use on her?
Oh, yeah. She could just not say something in a way he liked, right? Or say something in a way he didn't like. And he would kick her outside and lock her out. And it doesn't matter the temperature, he would make her lay there. I ended up finding out later it was worse than what I even imagined. Yeah. He would supposedly strip her naked, then throw her outside and leave her locked out. And she would either have to lay on the ground, or if the car was unlocked, she'd crawl in there and lay in there. If she needed to go somewhere, he would check the mileage in the car. And, she would go and then come back, and he would check the mileage to make sure she traveled the specific appropriate amount of miles to get to that destination and back. He would lock her inside a room while he was at work. And when he would get home, he would check her phone to make sure she wasn't talking to guys and things like that. So, insane levels of control.
And you guys knew about this before she was killed?
I knew that he would lock her out.
Okay.
I found out after the fact.
Right.
Through the investigation that
recently.
That she would actually be naked. And the whole thing about the phone and locking her in a room, I found all that out after. But I still knew. I do remember one time she said that he forcefully pushed her outside of a window and locked it. I mean, this is something she told me. And I remember I said, you have got to get out of this. You've got to. I mean, I offered to have her come stay with me even. And she left at one point. She came back to Texas.
Oh, did
she? And I breathed such a sigh of relief. And I'm like, you can stay with me. I'll help you as much as I need to, help you find a job. I'll pay your way. I mean, till you get it on your feet. I don't care what it takes. And then I don't know what he did or what he said. And I feel like my assumption is there was some kind of threats there. And she ended up leaving like in the middle of the night to go back and ended up back with him again. And I'm pretty I'm 100% sure it was out of fear.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's so common too.
Did this behavior on Joey's part start from like the beginning of their relationship, or was there ever a period where she told you that everything, well, I guess she probably would have told you everything's fine when it wasn't fine.
Yeah.
But and that's the hard thing is it's like, we probably don't know with 100% certainty if it was like that from the very beginning or not.
Right.
Exactly. She's in a whole other state and I can only go off of what she says.
Right.
I mean, apparently there was a small period of time, but I don't even know if that's real or if she was so embarrassed or too scared to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, just based on Joey's past, I think it's probably fear. I mean, just immense fear to the point where even just after getting to know somebody or getting into a relationship, let me back up a little bit. So Joey lived in a single wide trailer on Rex Howard Road in Pink Hill, North Carolina, which is about an hour away from Greenville, North Carolina.
That's right.
And Pink Hill, if you look it up on the map, which I did, it is a teeny tiny town.
Very.
Looks like mostly just farmers and,
What were you saying, like population?
Yeah, it was a little over 500 people.
Yeah, there's like
very
not
small.
even, I doubt there's more than like one or two stoplights in that whole town.
Right.
Probably,
and I think the population's about the same today. I mean, it's not much different.
So do you know at what point she moved out there with him, or did she ever like claim residency as at Joey's place, or was it sort of just she just went to stay with him because they were in a relationship and it just made sense because how did he get her out to Pink Hill?
Yeah, I don't know if she claimed residency. I feel like he wanted more control over her, so he somehow
enticed her
and got her to come and live there. And then that's when he was really able to control every move. He didn't want her having a job, so he wouldn't let her have a job. Like he wanted her home all day, and he wanted to monitor. That's why I found out he was locking her in a room there while he went to work. Like it was okay for him to work, but not okay for Melissa to work. He didn't want her meeting anybody. He didn't want her having friends. He isolated her from her family.
He's really a predator.
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like the more I sort of try to wrap my head around this, the more I think that this guy was probably out there looking for his next victim in a way.
Yeah.
Especially
someone he could control.
Yeah, somebody that he can control. And, I mean, he's clearly got issues with violence and anger and rage. And so, he had these two previous relationships. So my guess is he was just looking for that next victim. And it just happened to be like, it just is so unfortunate that she just happened to meet this guy at her job, right? Like that was where their first interaction was, just out of happenstance. Like he's there, she's there, and they just happen to start talking, and she has no idea who she's even dealing with. And this
she didn't know all that past.
That's crazy. That's so scary. I mean, it's just so
terrifying.
scary to think that there's individuals out there that are just that prey on people.
Yeah.
And are, I mean, clearly only focused on what they want, and what he wants is complete control over somebody for whatever he wants to do with them. I mean, it's just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So in 2008, Melissa was 31, and she's still in a relationship with Joey at this point.
Right.
She was also still on probation for writing bad checks, so she wasn't able to leave the state of North Carolina because of that.
Right.
So she pretty much lived at Joey's trailer. She had a tattoo of his name on her lower back.
Yeah.
Wonder whose idea that was, if that was his or hers, or...
I can't imagine it being hers. Just knowing her so well. It's probably, I want my name stamped on you, like you're my property.
Right.
And that's how I've always taken it.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it was also, the more they were together, they started drinking more and more. So maybe alcohol was involved with that.
Yeah.
That decision too. I mean,
And she wasn't a big drinker before meeting Joey, right?
Right. Okay. Right. Well, I do know Melissa did not want that kind of life, and she would go to rehab because she wanted to better herself, and he would call her in rehab and basically threaten her to come back. And, if she didn't, he would do this and he would do that to her. He would go pick her up from rehab. On the way home, he would stop and get liquor, and he would take her home and pretty much force her to drink liquor and get her liquored up.
Unfortunately, I think that's an experience that a lot of people have, and that sometimes you get introduced to alcohol or drugs through someone else. And especially when you're in a relationship as stressful as the two of theirs, I can see how that would have been a coping mechanism for her as well.
It really was. She said she felt so dead inside from everything going on. She just had to numb it in some way, the constant just berating and control and,
well, when you're getting treated like that, I mean, I don't know how you deal with that mentally day in, day out without having some sort of way to medicate yourself or just allow yourself to escape for even a moment. I mean, to be trapped in I'm just thinking how horrible it must have been to be trapped in a single wide trailer with this guy. Yeah. And that's your life day in, day out.
Yeah.
And he's got you isolated in this teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Away from your family, away from any sort of support system. So she wasn't seeing any family members during this time at all. Like nobody was able to see her.
Yeah, it pretty much stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And my mom would call, she sleeps, she can't come to the phone. I mean, this ties into when we get to the point of when the day that she was found. So I can I can elaborate on that when we get to that part, but yeah, you would lie.
So he was just like, she was prisoner. Tactic. She was a prisoner, Joey's prisoner.
Yep.
No car, no job. You do what I tell you to do.
Yeah. Afraid for her life.
So how would she go to rehab at all then? Like if Joey was, how did she just help? Take off when he was gone or something? Exactly. Wait for her moment of opportunity. And
exactly what she would do. Yep. And try to go get help for herself and be better. And I can't even imagine the threats that he was giving to her to get her to come back. Like from what I found out later, things like he would kill her, her family, just crazy things like that. And I'm sure with the things she saw him do, I'm sure she believed him.
Oh,
and you get into, I fully believe she was just a victim of battered women syndrome, of course.
Totally.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in that environment for so long, your entire reality changes. And for us to sit here and try to think about her experience, I mean, we can't even comprehend it because we're not in that position where we are being controlled by this person and they've created this world for us to live in. And, we take for granted, being able to do whatever you want and, have good relationships where you're still able to be yourself and do all the things you want to do. But it's really hard to wrap your mind around literally being a prisoner of somebody's. And not only that, but you are living and just trying to get through the day, knowing that this person, if I try to do something or I try to call the police or get help, that he may just end my life and there's not anything I can do about it.
Exactly. And I know some people don't understand and might be a little bit judgmental, like, well, just leave.
Right.
Sometimes it
seems so simple, right? Just
easy.
Well, couldn't she just walk out the front door and go to the neighbor's house and call the police and then have him arrested and tell the police what he's doing to her? And it's like, you're not understanding psychologically.
How run down she is. And that first amount of time when somebody leaves somebody, that's like the most dangerous part of the process of trying to get away from somebody like that. Right. So it's not as easy as it sounds.
Well, and you don't know what that's going to do to Joey too. You don't know, or any abuser. You don't know if that's going to flip a switch. Right. And they're gonna. I mean, it could be a trigger for them to then go and do something violent or go and. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's clearly unpredictable. You have no idea what he's capable of, and all the things that he was filling her head with. I'm sure it was just. It just kills me to think about what thoughts were in her head day in, day out, and
I know.
And just like having to figure out how to even function as a human when you're, those are the only thoughts that you have, and you can't even talk to your family when they call.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand why she was drinking, even though she was trying to get that help, and it's crazy that he was literally pushing it onto her to the point where he'd pick her up from treatments and take her right to the liquor store.
Yep.
And it's just
tells you a lot.
And if it's going to numb that pain, I mean, why wouldn't you? Plus, he was literally forcing her to drink it.
He was
threatening her if she didn't drink it.
Yep.
So she really had no control at all at that point. And it's pretty obvious why he would want her to continue with the drinking. It's easier to control a person under the influence. It just is.
And he was drinking too? Or was he? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely intoxicated, which just makes things even worse. Because, you already have somebody who's not mentally sane, and then they're fueling their body with alcohol on top of that. I mean, and like you already alluded to, there was a night he actually threw her out a window.
Yeah. Threw her out, locked it, and just left her out there. And that night, the car happened to be unlocked. And so she was able to get in there and at least have something to lay on.
Yeah.
But sometimes it would be locked and she'd be in the bushes or...
And there was no neighbors or anything that witnessed this or saw it or reported something, or it just wasn't something people did because they just kind of all keep to themselves, or...
It's kind of...
Have you been to his trailer? Have you seen his neighborhood and stuff?
Yeah, I have. And it's not like homes are on top of homes on top of homes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Not
There's
like right next to
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
apparently when my sister would, like, the last words out of her mouth, I remember one thing she had mentioned is, ask the guy who lives in the back. He saw stuff. But nobody ever talked to him. Police never talked to him, even though we gave that information. And I'm not sure who she was talking about. And I just made me wonder, did somebody witness something? And she was trying to give a hint, hey, somebody talked to us. We didn't get a name or anything, but yeah.
I mean, it's also possible too that who knows if his neighbors would even said anything too.
True.
I mean,
Tighten
it's
it,
like,
kind of.
Yeah, well, and
hush.
or maybe they're scared of him too. I mean, if he's walking around,
a lot of people are apparently
unhinged and just, they know he's drinking. I mean, they don't know if he's got weapons or not. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, he sounds like just a dangerous guy that you'd probably want to just, not cross paths with, or.
But it would have made such a difference if someone had reported.
If somebody saw something to say something, and if you witness, especially somebody being thrown out a window, or a woman naked outside in the cold, and
especially extreme situations like that. It's obviously people do fight, but if you see any type of abuse, it can really make such a huge difference to get that information to the right people. Hopefully.
As long as they'll act on it and do something.
And a lot of people are like quiet and don't, and it's scary. And I know she would, if I, being naked and curling up in bushes and not wanting to be seen, I don't know if she was just way too embarrassed to even.
Probably.
You know what I mean? So that's another factor.
Yeah. And it's like, how can you blame her? How can you blame her for being embarrassed or feeling a certain type of way when, trying to imagine yourself that you're like, I would be too, probably be like.
And just fearful of Joey and what he might do if she were to tell somebody.
What if I tell somebody? What's he going to do to me next?
Yeah.
Because, he spends a couple nights in jail and then he's out. And then what?
Exactly. It's like not even knowing if he would end up getting any punishment at all.
Right.
So do you know, was Joey in and out of jail quite a bit? Do you know his criminal record at all?
I do know he had domestic violence charges from him, his last 2 ex-wives. They definitely filed, but the weird thing about it is as soon as it would get to court, they would drop the charges.
Huh.
I found out through the private investigator that he had assaulted a firefighter at one point as well. So
he's completely unhinged and just
he is unhinged. Yeah,
he's just ready to strike whenever he feels like it. And because there's no, I mean, it sounds like he didn't spend any comprehensive time in jail or prison or anything like that. It was kind of like slap on the wrist, you know,
exactly.
Don't
Every
do
time.
it again. And he's just back out into society. And that, I mean, that just lends to all the issues with the criminal justice system and the fact that people like this. I mean, I know there's some states that have like zero tolerance policy, and like if you commit a domestic assault and you know you're convicted of it, there's minimum prison time for those types of charges. I think Colorado is one of them, maybe even Nevada. I know there's a couple states out there, but I know some other states it's way more lax than others. Like they treat it much differently, whereas other states will. I mean, you get charged with this, you're going to go to prison for that,
right?
For some time at least. But to just kind of pop in, pop out, pop in, pop out. I mean, what does that teach that person? That I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can talk myself out of anything. Yeah, whatever. Night in jail, seriously. No big deal. It's just there's no, there's not the appropriate checks and balances here. So the one thing that this blows my mind is that Melissa was shot.
Yeah. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Do you want to explain that? Because you were just telling us some other details about that. And of course, everything that Michelle is sharing here today when it comes to Joey is alleged. We just have to say that for legal reasons. But yeah, can you tell us more about what you know about when she was shot?
Yeah. So, after she passed, we requested all of her medical records. And within those medical records, we found a time where she had been shot. And she had been shot in the weirdest angle that supposedly she shot herself, or so that was the official story.
Right under her collarbone.
Yeah, right under it. So in the weirdest spot. I mean, you would have to with a gun.
Right.
So I knew something, and I'm sure she was just covering for him because, of who he is. So through the private investigation, and a different ex of my sister's came forward and provided a lot of information, actually. And he said that Joey was being absolutely horrible to Melissa, fighting, threatening her. She ran into the bathroom. And again, this is a single wide trailer and very thin walls. And that he got a gun and shot through the door directly into where she was. And then that's how she got shot. And, went to the hospital and got assistance for that, but was said, I shot myself. But it never made sense when I realized where it was. And then hearing what she told an ex-boyfriend of her that happened, that made complete sense to me. I from the beginning, I'm like, Joey did this to her, that's gotta be it. But it all lined up when I found out what the ex-boyfriend said.
So that's crazy. You guys did not know about it when it actually happened. She kept that from her family.
She did.
I'm sure he threatened her.
Oh, absolutely.
If you speak of this,
you
don't even want to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
At that point,
and I'll put it past him.
Her fear's got to be higher than ever.
Right.
Yeah. Now he shot me. What else is he going to do?
Well, did Melissa have a gun, as far as you know?
Nope.
Would she ever go buy a gun or have would there be any reason for her to have a gun?
He wouldn't have allowed that.
Probably. I don't think he would have allowed that. I mean, I know he had one.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is it's like clearly the guy had a gun and probably other weapons and whatnot. So, I mean, that's just another tool for controlling. I mean, he can wave that around and feel powerful and, you try to do anything and I'll shoot you.
I mean, his own son said that when they would be over there, he would put his hand up in the shape of a gun and just go pow to her head and laugh about it. So I'm sure after that happened, she's like, this guy will kill me. He was probably, I mean, again, allegedly, I think he was trying to kill her at that point, and why would you shoot at somebody in that direction where they're at when you can obviously kill them? So I think that was probably a turning point. And I already knew he would hurt me, but now it's gone this far.
Yeah.
Like now I'm sure at that point she was even more terrified.
Because you were saying earlier, you don't think it was a case of something went too far. You think he was fully intending on ending her life that day.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Do you think that maybe she was getting to a point where she was ready to make a break for it, or, you know, come forward and just be like, I'm done with this, and try to get him locked up for all this? And he realized that time was running out for him before. I mean, it was only a matter of time. Joey had to know that wasn't going to be long before people would know the truth about what happened and what's going on here.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely believe that, because part of the investigation also we found out that we didn't know about is Melissa had started seeking help through a counselor. And when she described the things she was going through, she was specifically, I'm not sure what the word is here, but she was like assigned. She was assigned to somebody who specializes in domestic violence. And so she started seeing this person, and that person, we found out, was so concerned about Melissa's safety that she was seeking to try to get, because she was trying to get guardianship to get Melissa out of that situation. Because I think she thought Melissa was so scared and would not make the decision herself to fully leave. We found out this woman had started doing paperwork to try to get guardianship, and we never knew any of this until the private investigation. So if that tells you anything, so I really do think she was finding a way to come see somebody, and I'm, telling them everything that was happening. And there were horrific details of things that she said Joey did to her that are on record with this counselor. And I don't know, I was blown away because I had no idea. So yeah, it could have been he found out maybe that she was doing this somehow. Maybe she was doing it when he was at work, sneaking away, and he somehow found out, and that was it.
So was the PI able to get some of those records from the counselor?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's great.
I had to do some request of records from a family member. Had to do it to where I gave permission for them to give everything, and they have that paperwork.
Okay, and have you ever spoken to this counselor?
I haven't personally. Just my private investigation team has talked to them.
Interesting. I'm so glad they were able to connect.
But that's important that they're putting these pieces together, because they're really creating the timelines. Because like when we get into the investigation and what the police say happened, I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. But now that you have these additional pieces of evidence, you can really put them together, and you can really prove that she was trying to leave this abusive relationship, and she was taking steps to do so. And looking at all the things that Joey did that were controlling. I mean, you went through her phone, you would track the mileage on her car.
Yes.
I mean, who knows what else there was too. I mean, he could have had other people looking out for her. I mean,
exactly.
You have a tracker. I mean, who knows? I mean, this guy's insane. So you never know what he could have been doing. But
this whole thing with the counselor was literally like 2 months before Melissa was killed.
Right.
Well,
and
when she was found.
Wow.
And you just look at the timing.
It was that close of a time frame before that horrible day where she was found in the trailer.
And this is why being able to get a PI is so important, and donating to anyone who's raising money for a PI is huge, because think about if this was done initially, how different everything would be if they went and spoke with the counselor, if they just did any sort of investigation from the jump. I mean, we'd be sitting here having a whole different discussion.
Right. And none of this would have been possible without the help from so many people.
Yep.
My heart was touched by the amount of people that donated, and we were able to get a PI, because there's no way I would have been able to afford it on my own. It's so expensive, and it's still ongoing, And I'm forever thankful and grateful to all the people who came out to support us for that. We couldn't have done any of this, and none of this would have been possible without all that help.
And you were featured on several YouTube channels: Georgia Marie, Danielle Hallen, a few others.
Molly Westbrook did it as well. Yep.
And so, when everyone comes together and donates even whatever you have, I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. It makes a huge difference. And like she said, she's still funding the PI. This is ongoing. It's going to be going for a while. So We have that information below if you would like to donate, because I think it's really amazing to see the action actually happening before our eyes.
Right.
And knowing that it does help. It really does.
It really does.
A good skincare routine is one of the hardest things to get right. I've spent so much time over the years going through the aisles at the grocery store, at the drugstore, trying to figure out what skincare products work for my skin to help take care of that oily, nasty acne that I get after working out at the gym. And boom, that's where Curology came in clutch. Curology is a game-changing custom skincare made for you by a dermatology provider. They'll create a custom prescription cream for your specific goals, whether that's tackling acne, clogged pores, skin texture, dark spots, fine lines, or something else. And basically, when you start the Curology process, you start by taking a short online skin quiz and you upload photos. And if it's a good fit, then they'll ship you your formula right to your door. It even has your name on the bottle. That's the coolest thing about it, is a lot of places that I've lived, there just really hasn't been dermatology providers out there. So with Curology, they can do it all remotely. You can do it all from the comfort of your home, which is so, so nice. And they send you your prescription custom skincare products right to your door on the schedule so that you never run out of product, which is super, super nice. Curology has done wonders for my skin. Has definitely helped clear up that acne, keep it nice and moisturized. So what are you waiting for? Get started with Curology just like I did with a free 30-day trial at Curology.com/milehigher and just pay $5 for shipping and handling. That's CUROLOGY.com/milehigher to start your free 30-day trial. You can cancel anytime and prescription is subject to consultation.
When it comes to looking good, Stitch Fix has you covered. Say goodbye to endless browsing and hello to fresh picks curated for your taste and size. Whether you need date night dresses or cozy loungewear, Stitch Fix can help you refresh your look. You can schedule a fix and a stylist will send you 5 pieces that fit your style, your size, your price range, and there's no subscription required, which is awesome. You get to keep what you like and return the rest. It's super, super easy. I have been a Stitch Fix customer for at least 4 years now, and I am a huge fan because of how easy it is. And what's so cool is I was able to switch my account into like maternity mode, and now I'm getting maternity clothes and it's going based on how far along I am, which is really awesome. It makes shopping so much easier. I truly love it. I pay for my own subscription and it's just fantastic. To get started, take a style quiz from Stitch Fix so that they can learn your preferences, your favorite colors, your preferred fits, and price ranges. It's the easy way to get items that are just right for you from brands that you know and trust, like Madewell and Sanctuary. It's time to get looks that are so you. Get started today by filling out your free style quiz at stitchfix.com/milehigher and take advantage of free shipping and returns. That's stitchfix.com/milehigher to try Stitch Fix. stitchfix.com/milehigher.
Most cat litters make it hard to take care of my cats. They get super clumpy. The dust goes everywhere. I've got asthma, so obviously that dust, breathing that in is not good for me. It's really not good for anybody. And all the clay litter out there just doesn't trap the odors very well, no matter how much they advertise they do, which made my whole basement stink like a litter box. My cats and I deserve a litter that works for us and not against us. That's why I use Pretty Litter. Pretty Litter's crystal formula is lightweight, ultra absorbent, and long lasting, which is my favorite part. Less scooping. It traps odor instantly and it doesn't clump. The super light crystal base is virtually dust free, minimizing mess. Plus, Pretty Litter's crystals last up to a month, which means less scooping for me. Here's the smartest part about Pretty Litter though. This is what makes it truly unique. The crystals change color to help detect early signs of potential illnesses in my cats, including urinary tract infections and kidney issues, which is really, really great because cats, they don't ever tell you when they're upset or they have some sort of illness or they're just hurting inside. Pretty Litter has changed the game for me and my cats, and it will do the same for you. I can promise you that. Pretty Litter gives me that peace of mind as well, knowing that if there is an issue with my cats, that I'm going to be able to detect it, hopefully in time for them to get the help and care they need. Pretty Litter works for me, trapping odors, not clumping, and gives me a peace of mind, and that's why I love it. You and your cat will love it too. Just go to prettylitter.com and use code MileHigher to save 20% on your first order. That's prettylitter.com. Use code MileHigher to save 20%. Again, that's prettylitter.com. Use code MileHigher.
Okay, well, we're about to get into some pretty intense details of this case. So just a warning to everyone out there.
So on October 3rd, 2008, Joey allegedly beat Melissa severely and left her wrapped in a blanket on a mattress in his trailer. Melissa was in excruciating pain, but Joey did not try to get her any sort of medical attention or help of any kind. He literally just left there alone for days on end while he just went about his normal daily life.
Would just go to
That's
work,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Like nothing happened.
Like nothing happened. He didn't let on to anybody that anything was going on.
But your mom was calling because she was like, I haven't heard from her.
Right.
So something's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. She called and Joey answered at one point and said that she just wasn't feeling good. He said, oh, she fell in the bathroom, but she's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells me a lot because the amount of injury she had to say that, oh, but she's okay. But she's sleeping right now. And we're like, is she okay? Are you sure she's okay? Yeah, she's totally fine. Just sleeping. And then
If she's okay, then why can't she get on the phone for a minute to just say, hey guys, I'm okay. I fell.
exactly.
Like you guys are obviously like, this makes no sense. This is
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, she's asleep right now. Okay. And then called back, rang, went to answer machine back when answer
Right.
machines were
Right.
a big thing.
Yeah.
Left a message, called back again. You could tell he had taken the answer machine off because it just rang at that point. And
Wow.
at that point, we're like, nah,
this
So-
is
Something
this is
bad's
weird.
going on.
very weird. So that's when a welfare check was called in.
So your mom called her probation officer,
That's right.
which I mean, thank God she did.
Yeah.
Because
Because he's very close. And she's like, can you just swing by there and check on her?
So probation officer on October 8th visits Joey's trailer.
Yeah.
And that's when they find Melissa barely alive
Yes.
inside, covered head to toe in bruises.
Head to toe, truly. She was absolutely covered in bruises.
Yeah. And huge ones too.
Yeah, these aren't just like little bumps and bruises. These are-
Michelle did want us to show the images. I think it's important, like you said,
Yes.
for people to see the severity of this attack. And just a warning ahead of time, though, they are very disturbing to look at, very upsetting.
well, not only that, but she's found lying in her own urine,
Mhm.
feces, other bodily fluids. She's lethargic and obviously suffering from extreme pain.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have been like to see her like that and just realize. I mean, everything really comes together very quickly. I mean, this is not just what Joey's saying. This isn't an accidental. Oh, she's this is something really serious that just happened. So her probation officer immediately called the paramedics. And you want to talk about what the paramedics said and just
And first of all, before we go forward, how many days do you believe she was lying there?
Based on what the doctor said, they said anywhere from 6 to 11 days.
Wow.
So it could have been up to that long. But I mean, even
at
2
least
days,
6.
even a day is, but
Yeah.
6 to 11 of laying, like that's what gets me.
Well, it was 6 days that went by without your mom hearing from her at all, where she really started to get worried.
Right. And so we don't know how many days before that this even happened.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So the first responders get there and their report is very telling, actually. They said her condition was the absolute worst they've ever seen. They said the moment they walked in that trailer, they could smell all the body fluids, the feces, the urine. When they came upon her, she was naked from the waist down. She had a shirt that was like halfway on, like one of her arms was, completely out. She could not move. She was wrapped in a blanket. And she wouldn't have been able to move and call for help herself. So that's how he left her there. So she ended up getting airlifted to the hospital. And there we found that she had a jaw broken in 2 places, one on each side. She had to have an emergency craniotomy because she had a severe brain bleed. And she had bruises of varying age all over her body.
Yeah.
She had bruising around her pelvic region that's indicative, allegedly, of possible sexual assault as she was laying there helpless. And she had to have tubes put in her head, and she had teeth smashed in. She had toes that were broken.
And then the marks too.
Yeah, and then another thing is she had what looked like a strangulation mark around her neck. And that's something the police, when we ask about, have never had an explanation for. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, so did she get that from falling? You know, I mean, it was bad, and it was dark, and it was all the way around her neck. She had black eyes, just battered head to toe. And the thought of her laying like that in I unimaginable pain for days on end, like, haunts me.
I truly can't imagine having those thoughts and having to go on and live your life after. Because you guys went to the hospital. You saw her.
We went right there. I was in Texas at the time. Went straight to North Carolina. Saw her. I mean, she was having like seizures. She was starting to have those. So she had these like restraints on her arms so that, you know what I mean? And just seeing the tubes in her head, and to be told by the detective, oh, you know, Joey said she fell in the bathroom. And to understand the bathroom in this trailer is very, very small. And he said that she fell on a little tiny plastic trash can. But again, she had her jaw's broken here and it's broken here.
Makes no sense. I mean, her injuries are more consistent with somebody who fell off a 50-foot cliff or something.
Exactly.
Like this, there's just no way that anybody could take a fall in a bathroom.
Exactly.
And end up with these injuries. And I just want to point out too that when first responders get there, so obviously paramedics are dispatched, police are dispatched. It's interesting that the paramedics pretty much know right away, like, what's going on here. And the doctors, the medical staff, even, like you said, talk to you about that.
Mm-hmm.
This is very clear, a very serious case of abuse.
That's exactly. It's in their report too. They clearly said this is a, 31-year-old female who's the victim of prolonged abuse. Mm-hmm. I mean, they wrote all those words in there. Mm. I mean, it was apparent to anybody who looks at her.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you trying to say? Did she get up, fall, get up, fall, get up, fall, get up over and over and over?
Just bang herself on the wall?
I know.
Like, what?
Can you explain to us how that one officer told you she broke her jaw in 2 places by falling?
Yes. The Captain Oldenburg was his name at the time. He told my mom, because my mom was like, well, how did she get a jaw broken on 2 different sides? He said, well, maybe she fell and, hit her head on the toilet this way and it made her bounce up and her turn and then hit this side.
My God.
I didn't understand why they were trying to justify Joey's story that she fell in the bathroom so much. It made no sense to me. And even the detective at the time, his name was Braden. I remember being in a room with him at the hospital. And I was just getting confused. I said, well, are y'all going to arrest him? This is pretty clear case of abuse. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, we have to investigate. I said, okay, how about negligence for leaving a human being in your home suffering like that? And he had the nerve to tell me that, oh, Joey was taking care of her. I'm like, how was he taking care of her exactly? Well, he was feeding her and keeping her hydrated and all this. And I'm like, how can you eat with a jaw broken in 2 places? And he said, you can eat with a broken jaw. And he got up and he left the room. That's the attitude we were dealing with.
You've got to wonder why.
They're
why?
Exactly.
You went into this for a living. I mean, it's so hard to wrap your mind around how that could immediately be the attitude that you're met with.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, of course.
And I was just like, I was just flabbergasted. I could not believe that interaction just happened. Mm-hmm. And he really didn't want anything else to do with talking to my family.
And it's already so much for you guys to process as it is, what's going on, and then process what these people are telling you during these moments. So when you first found out that she was hospitalized, did you have any idea how bad it was until you actually got there?
Not until I got there. I mean, I heard some things.
Oh my God.
But when I got there and I saw her and one of the hardest things I've ever seen in my life. I could not believe what I was looking at. And all the doctors were, they had warned me before I went in to see that they said she's in really bad shape, you know? And so when I saw her like that, I'm like, okay, I'm talking to a nurse and I'm talking to a doctor, and they're like, we are so sorry that she has been the victim of prolonged horrific abuse. And they're like, that's when they were telling me there's bruises of varying age, and they're saying big ones.
Yeah.
So this is prolonged.
You can see it in the pictures.
You can.
The different shades in the bruising.
Yeah, different shades. Some very dark ones, and there's some you can tell are healing.
Yeah.
Like I said, her toes were broken even. Her teeth were smashed in. Horrific injuries from head. And it's no exaggeration. It's head to toe.
Yeah, I'm just so sorry your family had to go through that experience of seeing her like that.
That was hard.
Absolutely horrific.
And she was supposedly interviewed by the detective who claimed she said this, said that. Oh, Joey didn't do it, whatever. Exonerated him or something. There's no proof of this. There's no record of him even being there and interviewing her. I just know my sister was able to muster up enough energy to talk to my mom and my other sister. The last words my sister said were talking about the things Joey did to her. She said he, slammed her against a wall, that he grabbed her by her neck, dragged her outside, ripped her shirt, which coincides with the fact that her shirt was like half ripped off, and that he hit her over that with something hard. And then she didn't remember anything else. We told the police this, and they said, oh, that's hearsay. There's nothing we can do about it.
That is unbelievable to me. We were talking about this earlier. How can it be considered hearsay when she was saying this in the hospital? Doctors are around. You guys alerted the doctors about what she was saying.
Absolutely.
As well. How is that hearsay?
Exactly. And there were two people. There's like my mom and my other sister. And I even looked into couldn't this possibly be like one of those like deathbed confession type situations?
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, no, it doesn't fall under that either. So they just didn't care. They're like, it's hearsay. We didn't hear it, so it didn't happen, basically, was the attitude.
Again, this is alleged, but it makes you feel like there is some reason why they were protecting Joey, or there was something for them to gain by having this go the other way. When the whole medical team is saying this is prolonged abuse, she is saying that, her family's saying that, and they don't even want to look into it further.
Right.
Well, think about this too. This kept coming up in my mind and he says Joey was basically a caretaker. I'm like, in any other case. So imagine this was an elderly person and a caretaker. If an elderly person was, a percentage of the state that
condition.
Melissa was in condition, there would be elder abuse charges. There'd be like this caretaker would be
not always,
a
but
mental
that's what you would
always,
hope
but-
for.
but-
of investigation.
But I'm saying, like, if a battered elderly person, or even just any sort of person that needs a caretaker in any other situation, there would be some sort of charges against that person. Whether, it blows my mind that they are immediately just going towards, this was just, Joey was trying to do the right thing by keeping her alive, essentially. Meanwhile, he's like giving her alcohol. They found liquor by the bed.
Right,
He
and
was
that's-
doing that.
Yeah.
They would say he was keeping her hydrated, and it was literally
Right.
liquor.
Yeah, there was a soda can found on the nightstand next to the bed
Oh my God.
that had a straw in it, and it was filled with liquor.
Did Detective Braden even go into Joey's trailer and into the room she was in? Do you
I'm
know?
not
Do you
sure
know
if
if
he
he
even
ever
did.
even saw where she was? Or
I don't know that it was never treated as a crime scene ever. I just know Joey took that mattress out that she was found on and burned it. So any DNA, anything that would have gone with it is completely destroyed.
Burned
And-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's horrific thinking that he wasn't held responsible at all.
or that there's
Like
just not
nothing.
any questions, or
No.
why wouldn't you even
Why were you going to work when she's lying on the floor of the bathroom?
bring him in and question him even a little bit?
Yeah.
Even just like make sure he can give you an accurate timeline of the events that led to her being in this state. So Detective Braden went to the hospital, saw Melissa in the state she was. So he physically saw Melissa in the state she was in.
Right.
And he, even after that, went with the story that this was fall or repeated falls or whatever, because she's drunk and intoxicated all the time. And Joey was just trying to keep her alive and keep her going. Rather than doing what a normal person would do and like take her to rehab, get her help, get some sort of medical attention to her when she's, I mean, in what world is it okay to leave somebody lying in their own feces and bodily fluids, bleeding and bruised? Like in what way is that caretaking in any way, shape, or form?
Right. And he was asked, and he lied. He changed his story. He was asked, why didn't he call 911? And at first he said, oh, she didn't want me to. And then he changed his story and he said, oh, well, they've come out here so many times, they wouldn't have come out anyway, so it didn't matter. And that's not how 911 works at all. So it was just absolute.
Do you
crap.
think that if it wasn't for your mom calling her probation officer, do you think Joey would have ever called 911, or would he have just
absolutely not.
Just let it ride out and see,
I think he would have left her there. And what really gets me is when she was in the hospital, the doctor said, see, what was happening and what was kind of unseen in her head, though, was a brain bleed that was going on. There was all the outward horrible injuries, and you could tell that she needed help. I mean, nobody sits there and goes to the bathroom on themselves, because they can't move. Mm-hmm. But she had a brain bleed, and the doctor said if she would have been brought in day one, she would probably have made it and still be alive today. But him leaving her there, and that brain bleed just kept going and going, day after day, damage after damage after damage. He is completely responsible for her death.
Absolutely. Yeah, just in that sense.
Just in that sense alone, not even counting all the other horrific injuries, even that. So you add that on top of everything else, he's completely responsible for it.
You would think there'd be something he'd be culpable for in that situation. And that has got to be so just infuriating to you and your family.
Did you ever feel like just raging on the detective? Like, if it were me, I'd be so angry. I'd be so pissed. How'd you even deal with that? Like, hearing that him say that to you, like, how do you not just get angry and upset? And
I was so angry. At first, I was just so shocked. Like, I couldn't believe what I just
you're like,
heard.
What?
I'm like, wait, did I just hear that right?
Yeah.
And he took off, but I kept pressing when I saw him again. I'm like, no, you can't eat with a broken jaw. No, he was not taking care of her. Something needs to be done. Why aren't y'all doing something? And I wanted to rage bad.
But you got to maintain some sense of,
when you're getting some bullshit answers like he's giving.
I know,
it's like,
but it's like you don't want to make them more angry or
exactly
make them not want to help you.
I'm not dealing with this.
Well,
so
it's shock. It's shock too.
In.
I mean, you're in shock in the whole situation, and just
Mm-hmm.
I think you're also hoping that they're going to do the right thing. They're gonna, at that point, you're still hoping that they're going to go investigate it like they say they're going to, and that ultimately they're going to arrest him.
Right.
But they didn't do anything that they should have in order to make sure they could charge him and have the evidence they need to prosecute him in the court of law for all of these crimes that he's committed. But they did none of that.
None of it. And then they closed that case quick. Like they were just done with it and
did they ever
move on to the next.
What was their thoughts on the medical examiner's ruling? Like, what did you ever have a meeting with them about that? Like, well, the medical examiner's saying it's undetermined. They're not saying that this is natural causes or whatever. I don't even know what sort of explanation from a, death certificate point of view you would put on there for this type of death.
Yeah, it wasn't even a complete autopsy that was done. It was kind of half-assed, to be honest, and undetermined. Like, well, we can't tell. Maybe he did, maybe not. We don't know. Undetermined. And there was a lot of stuff missed because all of her medical documentation was given to the PI team, because on the PI team there is actually a medical doctor who has 30 years experience. He was a surgeon. And he joined, he had retired, but then he joined the PI firm that I hired. And so he went over everything. And he created, and we have our own new medical examination and all that stuff. And there was so much to it that was
I'm sure
never mentioned on the other one. And there's been kind of a history with that original medical examiner that shows he doesn't do the best job when it comes to
it poses the
autopsies.
question, why did he not do such a thorough job?
Right.
Why did he?
Is it just laziness? Is
rush
It
this?
seemed like laziness, and it wasn't just my sisters. It was like multiple others. It was found, and there's no telling how many families are out there like us that are dealing with the results of that medical examiner.
Which is just, it's so angering to think that there's just people out there in these positions that don't give a shit.
And it's so common too.
You could tell he didn't give a shit.
Like, it's just like, whatever. And meanwhile, like, it's almost like they get desensitized. I don't know what it is. It's like over time they just stop caring, or it's like, why'd you get into this field in the first place if you're not even to do your job thoroughly?
Right.
Like, your job's very important. There's a reason why there's only like one of you usually in most counties. So why aren't you taking every case? Like, it's a huge responsibility. I mean, so much is determined based off of the medical examiner's report. I mean,
it's really wild that so many of the cases that we have covered on this show, on my channel, it's the same situation. The medical examiner has history, multiple people that this has happened to, and they still have their jobs.
Right.
It's just shocking.
Or they're sort of crafting their report to fit the police's narrative.
Yeah.
And that's the really hard thing, is it's rather than being this independent examination free of any bias, it's instead has tons of bias. And the police department's ultimately, whoever's in charge there is ultimately making sure that the report comes back to reflect the way the case was investigated and ultimately what they ruled, the case was. And it's mind blowing to me that homicide never even crossed anybody's minds there. Or maybe it did, and they're just like, whatever. And then that leads to a whole other thing is like, is there a reason for that? Like, why do they care about Joey? Like, Joey's a bad dude. You don't want this guy in your community. He's going around terrorizing people. He's dangerous. Like, why wouldn't you, as a law enforcement entity, why wouldn't you want to get this guy off the street? Like, you have everything you need to lock him up forever.
Right.
Why not do it? That's the big question, I guess. That's $1 million question, is why not? Why not just at least bring him in for questioning, ask him some simple questions about the timeline. How did it get this bad? And start, like, it's just so basic. And that's what's so hard about this is like, why couldn't Detective Braden at least do that? At least bring him in for questioning, give him a polygraph, do the normal things that detectives do, and see if he trips up or he's lying, or like, I mean, come on. It's not rocket science. It's like, it's pretty simple. Just even talk to the guy. And then, but here's the thing, is it was botched from the beginning. They didn't rule the crime scene. They automatically 5 minutes after showing up, they're like, oh, this is accidental. We're just going to roll with that. And we'll case closed. There's another one. Check that one off the list. We'll add it to our win column at the department and move on. And it's such a shame that these departments don't do their jobs. And ultimately families pay the price, and the victim ultimately pays the price too.
Yep.
Because they don't get justice.
So there was one point where Michelle was conscious enough to talk to the police themselves for a little bit. However, she was on a ton of pain medication at this time, and she didn't seem to fully know what was going on. Obviously, at this point, she has a brain injury. It's been days upon days, and she told the police that she was in a car accident, which obviously she was not.
Who
in a
knows
car
if
accident.
she even said that, though? Is there any record to back that up?
No,
where's the recording? Why wouldn't you record that?
I'm not aware of any recording. Apparently, it's just text on a paper that we were given.
That's a joke.
Which has always been very suspicious to me. And I thought they would record that.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, it's in the 2000s. Why wouldn't they have, even a small county like that should have basic recording equipment?
Right.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. He probably just picks and chooses when he wants to use it.
They also claim that she told them that she was just clumsy and fell down a lot. Obviously, these are not wounds from falling down a lot.
No.
But it's very common in cases of abuse for women to want to protect the abuser.
Absolutely.
So it's odd that they didn't even consider that. They just took her word for it. And I think that's very interesting that what she told you guys was completely different, but they consider that hearsay. Yet they have a patient who is, completely out of it on pain medication, and they're going to take her word for that.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
So Melissa was in the ICU for 9 weeks.
Yes.
Were you out there for that whole time then?
Yep.
And just, the doctors are trying to do everything they can. They're trying to get the brain bleeds under control. I think that was really the hardest part to her injuries was getting the brain bleeding under control.
Right.
And just, that affects everything too. That's going to affect the seizures and all the other.
Yeah, she started having them very frequently at that point because the brain bleed did a lot of damage. And who knows, while she was laying there before she was found, it was bleeding. So lots and lots of damage was done.
Right. And they're trying to, it's filling up with fluids. They're trying to drain the fluids out. They're trying to, they're doing their best to mitigate the damage that's happening. But ultimately it got to a point where the doctors were they said she's essentially, there's no way to come back from this injury. Is that what they said? Okay.
Right. They said that she started developing necrosis, which is just when tissue dies. And it was spreading through her brain. So her brain was dying. Definitely, essentially.
So Melissa was pronounced brain dead on December 17th, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And that is got to be the hardest decision anybody has to make for a family member to essentially just, you have to pull the plug. You have to just come to the point where you realize that there's no way back from this. And I can't even imagine.
You don't want her to continue suffering, obviously.
Right. And then by then, I think she was brain dead completely. Like the necrosis had spread everywhere.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
When you guys first came to the hospital, did you have hope that she would pull through?
Initially, when we first got there, yes, I did. I had hope.
So at what point in those 9 weeks did you start to feel like it just wasn't going to happen?
After the last time she was able to say those words to my sister and my mom, she just stopped completely. And then she started having those seizures and that's why she had to be kind of restrained because she was having them so often. I could just tell, and I would stand by her bed and hold her hand and just try to talk to her and hope she could hear me. And I never got like any kind of squeeze back on my hand or anything like that. So I at that point, I just felt like, maybe I was trying to be positive in my mind. I'm like, maybe she's just in a coma right now. Or, I always hear these things where people sometimes when they're in the coma, they can hear you. But, the doctor's like, Michelle, she's not, she's, necrosis is setting in. So, that day we had to make the decision to take her off life support. I just remember, I remember holding her hand and I knew what happened to her and I know who did this to her. And I remember telling her how sorry I was. And I felt so guilty. I'm sorry I wasn't there. And I told her I would fight for her. I told her, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going to do everything I can to get her justice. And so I made that promise to her then. And that's why I've been fighting so hard.
It's really incredible what you've done, given how just horrifically difficult this is for you to keep going and fighting for her. She would be so proud. She really would.
And just year after year after year of trying to go through the right channels, the police, the district attorney, up to the attorney general, the governor. We sent letters to all these people. I started contacting all these like major news organizations and like Nancy Grace, all these people, like anybody I could, and just nobody ever would get back to me. Nobody. And then that's what set me on the path that I just had an epiphany. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to try this. I'm going to contact these true crime YouTubers that I watch and just see if maybe I can get exposure to her case that way.
Yeah.
And that's how this whole thing started, is because nothing else was working. And I'm like, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. And the response has just been so heartwarming. Mm-hmm. There's been so many people. And I said at the beginning, if anything, if I'm not able to get justice for her, and no matter how hard I try, I said, if anything, I hope people will hear this story and see what can happen if you stay in a situation like this. And I just had hoped that it could help people, some kind of legacy for Melissa. And I've actually received so many messages from people, and the support has been just to show support. But I've had people tell me, like, "Oh my God, I watched Kendall's video, or I watched Danielle's video," and they would say, "I'm in a bad situation and I need to get out," and that kind of response has been at least rewarding in that sense, that hopefully what happened to her can help other people.
It's truly making a huge difference. And I mean, not to diminish what true crime YouTubers do, or like, myself does, but it's kind of wild that you contact all these other professionals who are supposed to help, and the only people who can really bring you that help are some girls with Google and YouTube. Like, it's crazy that that's really where the only place people have to turn to at the end, is getting that public support somehow. And it's amazing that we can do that, but it's just so sad and so broken that the people who are supposed to be there to help, and it's their job, and they've been professionally trained and hopefully gotten educations to do so, just don't do it. And I think that's not only just shocking and upsetting, it's also scary just as a citizen, thinking if this type of thing happens to you or your loved one, you might have no one to go to.
Right.
Your only hope is hopefully getting in touch with a YouTuber or a podcaster.
But I mean, that's
been amazing.
That's
actually.
the beauty of what,
it's great.
I
what
was
this
like,
is.
I was like, wow, this. And I learned through this experience. I'm like, these people are the ones who actually care.
Right.
They're the ones out here trying to do good for people.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. And I've just found, like, this is the best possible thing that could have happened. And, I've made friendships, and the response has been so overwhelming that I'm just so thankful. Like, everybody in the true crime community has been absolutely amazing.
Some amazing people out there. It's truly incredible to see how much can actually be done, and how many people will stand up and say something after hearing these stories. And yeah, I think it's incredible what we're able to do, and how I had no idea how many people we could reach and really get action in these cases.
Yeah.
But again, it's really sad to me and scary to me that for some people, that's the only hope, is trying to go to the internet.
But the internet should be discounted, because the internet has given us our power back.
Right.
It really has.
And it's
great.
As
I'm not
we've
saying
seen,
it's not, but
is that, and that we were having this whole discussion before we record this podcast, is like looking at the current state of the criminal justice system and sort of what the priorities are for law enforcement. I believe that many of their priorities are in the wrong place. You look at the war on drugs and just all that, all the crap that's come out of that, all of the people that have been jailed for just the dumbest, possession of marijuana. I mean, it's just absurd. When meanwhile, there's people that are being abused, being killed. There's sex offenders out there. There's child abuse out there that are having to fight this hard just to get in an investigation. Meanwhile, if we went and started looking into what Lenore County Sheriff's Department's been up to and what they're doing, and I guarantee you they're out there busting down doors, arresting drug dealers, which is fine, but it's like, where's our priorities at? There's a dangerous man out there who could potentially have more victims that is walking free right now. Meanwhile, you're more concerned about the guy selling a little bit of weed down the street. It's just
Or
like,
whatever, yeah.
or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's just,
Your family can't even get calls back.
can't get calls back for something
Right.
that is so horrific and so violent and scary and should not happen to anybody. And this is what you're there to do, is to protect and serve the citizens that live in your jurisdiction, and you are choosing to ignore them. And in order to get their attention, you have to create this huge ruckus. You have to go
Yeah.
seek out people that are willing to create awareness around your case.
Yeah, and basically get people to harass them into doing the right
That's,
thing.
that's pretty much what we got to do, is
It's
shake them down.
Useful.
Be like,
It works. We've seen it work very quickly in a lot of different cases, but it's so frustrating that is really where we're at.
Right.
That you can call these people directly and they're not going to do anything. They're going to tell you to stop calling sometimes. Didn't they tell you to stop calling?
Yeah. The old captain, he's not there anymore. His name is Oldenburg. Apparently he's a private investigator now in North Carolina, but
Oh, wow. Okay.
watch out for him.
I know. So he ended up telling my mom to stop calling him and gave him a
disgusting.
number of some other guy because he just didn't want to deal with my mom anymore. And now the guy who took on the case now, his name is Ryan Dawson. He is the chief deputy of the Lenoir County Sheriff's Department. And my private investigator met with him, gave him a massive booklet of all their case findings. And Mr. Dawson said he's personally going to look into this case. Now, I've left him voicemails. He has not responded to me. He did call my mom back one time. And he told my mom, just because the death certificate has been changed to homicide doesn't automatically mean that there's going to be an arrest. He said he needs to reinvestigate, and then re-interview people, and it might take time. But he hasn't responded to her anymore because my mom was, and I would call because we would just like to see, are you actually looking into this?
Sure. Your trust in them is zero.
I just want a status update, and I
call
personally
back.
never got a call back from him.
That's
So
just
that's what
disgusting.
frustrated me. And it's okay. It's like, I understand, I'm trying to be patient. I know things take time, but just the courtesy of a call back to let me know, hey, I haven't forgot.
Yeah.
I am looking into this. Here's what I've done so far would be so helpful right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. My trust is zero, and it still is.
Right.
Especially
so you're
when
like,
you're not
until
calling
you
me back.
show me progress,
Exactly.
I
Just
assume
say
nothing's
something.
happening. Yeah.
So he hasn't called me. He stopped calling my mom. I don't know what's going on with it. Apparently, he said it's reopened. Other than that, I have no idea what's going on with it. So I would love to have some kind of response, some kind of status update. Anything from him would be helpful at this point. Anything is better than the nothing that I'm getting right now.
Yeah. Or just like, hey, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Just know I'm working on it. Like, you can't even provide that
Yeah.
courtesy.
That would
is
go very
crazy.
far for me right now, just to be like, okay, you haven't forgot about us.
I feel
You're
like
actually doing it.
Yeah.
Are you though? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You really don't know.
there should be a way to like track your case
Yeah.
online. Like,
Absolutely.
so that
You can track
I
your pizza being made, but
Right.
you can't track
Right.
your. It's crazy.
like I get detectives, like all detectives are different. Some of them are more personal to others. Some are kind of like, I don't really want to talk to people. I want to work or whatever.
Whatever.
So
it's
like
your job.
either get some sort of person. I think departments should either have a person that their only job is to communicate updates to family members and work with the victims. That's somebody that actually cares. That's actually like somebody you could speak to and feel comfortable talking to, and they can go deal with the detectives on their own, on their side.
Yeah.
and
Like a
provide you
liaison.
update. Yeah, liaison.
Exactly.
Kind of like
Exactly.
a client coordinator, in other worlds.
It would make sense.
and-
or have something
social
online.
worker even.
Right.
Something, yeah, somebody.
And the district attorney, Matt Delbridge, has never responded to any of my calls or my mom's calls. So,
All right, guys.
I know apparently, what's supposed to happen is the case is reopened. Ryan Dawson said he was taking it upon himself to investigate himself. And then once he's done, then it would be up to him to recommend or push this over to Matt Delbridge, the district attorney. And it would be
Right.
up to the district attorney on whether or not they would maybe call it a grand jury to see if they want to go ahead and take this to trial. So that concerns me because Matt Delbridge has had one, like you could tell it was a canned response letter that got sent to my mom just saying, we're sorry for your loss, but there's really nothing we can do. And it's like, yeah, there actually is something you can do. Yeah. So my faith in him is not there. So I'm just scared, like, okay, what if Ryan Dawson sends us over to Matt and Matt's just like, and does nothing. It could stop at that point too. I just want to know what's going on with it, where it's at, and why. Especially with the private investigation team has done. They've done all the work for them. They have, like I said, a massive books that they've put together for them, and I don't understand with the overwhelming amount of evidence. Even the pictures speak for themselves of my sister's injuries. Why nothing has happened? Nothing. That's what gets me. Nothing at all. And this has been since 2008 that we've been fighting for this. And it's just ridiculous at this point.
12 years, 13 years, something like that?
Yeah.
Unreal. So now is a good time, guys. We have the information for these people below. You can email them, tweet them, light them up, and remind them that Melissa's family needs answers, that they should at least get a response, and that we are waiting for her to get justice.
At least present it to a grand jury. Like
that's all we've ever asked for.
That's
really
where it's the only thing that can be done is bring it to a grand jury and let a grand jury look at it. And we all know that you let 12 people look at it, they're all going to come to the same conclusion. It's like, why? I don't understand the hesitation with DAs to present cases to grand juries, because it's like, I don't understand. What do you have to lose, really? Like, let them give you the recommendation, and then you can go off of that. Like, why are you blocking it even going to there? Unless there's other pieces that they don't want to come to light, because if it does ultimately go to trial, they know that all of this is going to come up, and or officers are going to be held accountable for their lack of action and lack of investigation initially. Because ultimately in these cases, it does come back to somebody messed this up. Like, somebody did not look at this the right way or through the right lens.
Multiple people.
And a lot of times those people still work within their department. So are they going to go throw one of their own under the bus for not doing a good job and not looking at this with objective eyes that, maybe fall? Joey, that doesn't really make sense.
And if this mistake was busted right open and they saw that Joey just got away with it, imagine what other things people have gotten away with.
And that's kind of what we've come to the conclusion, is that oftentimes if they go, they walk back everything for this case, and other victims' families out there see that, then before they know
gives
it,
they've got some power.
They've got a ton of people coming to them, and and like I said to you, it ultimately comes back to ego a lot of times. Like, like Matt and some of these DAs, they've got some big egos, and they're trying to present themselves in a certain way, and they don't, the last thing they want is to have people underneath them that aren't doing their job, or the DA's not doing his job, and that all sort of comes to light, or a judge sees that, or who knows what they're exactly worried about. But it's just so clear that the priorities are in the wrong place.
Definitely.
And victims are not at the forefront for many of these people's, in their minds and their jobs. And you're literally, what'd you get into criminal justice for if you're not going to bring justice for victims and prosecute criminals? Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Meanwhile, you run the risk of another victim, like you said, there might be others out there already. Who knows? And
there probably are.
It's sad. It's honestly sad. It's honestly sad that there's so much evidence, and yet we're just kind of sitting around waiting for them to review it. What is there to review? How long does it take to go through this evidence? Like, I think you show the pictures to a jury, and a jury's going to be like, yeah, this looks consistent with extensive abuse.
Yeah.
It could be more complicated than that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But still, I just think from a very basic level, it just doesn't make any sense why they're not, pushing this through as fast as they could to get this guy off the street, because he shouldn't be out there.
Definitely, before he hurts somebody else, which, who knows?
Sounds like
who has been hurt since. I mean, this was a long time ago. This happened to my sister. There's no telling how many other victims there are. I mean, I already know his 2 ex-wives were victims. I mean, his own sons
saw him do stuff.
And they don't like him at all, you know.
Hasn't he also made threats towards his own mother?
Oh, yeah.
And his family's willing to back your family up.
That's another thing. I was contacted by Joey's niece, and at first I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what this is going to be about, but I went ahead and contacted her, and the first thing she said, she said her heart went out to me and my family for what happened, and that the whole family wholeheartedly believes and knows he did this to Melissa.
Wow. And
that they would back us. And that they've pretty much disowned him because of how horrible of a person he is. They said he hasn't outright said it, but he's alluded to and made jokes over the years about how he got away with what happened with Melissa. So I thought that spoke volumes that his own family
that really
doesn't want anything to do with him and is willing to back us in any way that they said in any way they can, they would help us.
Oh, good for them.
Which, yeah, I'm sure that took a lot of courage for her to reach out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it hit me really hard because I said, wow, for him to think it's such a funny thing to get away with it over the years, that, oh my God, that
piece of shit
angered me so much.
I can't imagine. It angers me. I just really can't imagine this being my sister, I can't imagine what you feel every single day. And hearing every little detail like that, and then to hear he's just laughing.
Yeah.
Sickening.
It is.
It truly is.
I'm really hoping and praying that they do the right thing and they prosecute him.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's all we've ever wanted, really. We've just please bring it to trial. That's literally all we've ever asked for. At least we could, it would be hard to live with it if he was somehow in some weird world found not guilty. I don't know how that would even happen.
Yeah.
But at least we would know that it was taken to that level.
Right.
And we could
have the opportunity.
Figure out how to do, I don't know how, I guess when you're found not guilty, that's it. You can't be retried or anything. But I feel like with everything, the evidence, there's no way. There's no way he'd be found.
And I
not
mean,
guilty.
we don't even
No
know
way.
what charges they'd even bring against him. Too.
Right.
So there could be multiple charges that even
Yep.
if he
There
wasn't
should be.
necessarily found guilty
Yeah.
of homicide, that he could be found of a number of other abuse and assault charges.
Yeah, there's
as
like
well.
negligent homicide is another
Yeah.
one I looked into. There was quite a few.
I mean, I think at the very least, if this goes to trial and he's convicted, that at least he's going to pay some sort of punishment and he's going to go to prison for some time.
Yeah.
I mean, anything is better than nothing.
Exactly.
Or maybe there's some sort of plea deal or something that's done, and he just pleads guilty and they give him a, X amount of time or whatever. I mean, anything at this point, just some sort of admission of guilt or to find him guilty for this would be the best case scenario, I think.
Absolutely.
And would sort of suffice for getting justice at this point.
Mm-hmm.
To just have it so left open like this has just got to be, I don't even know how you deal with it. I mean, I just have so much admiration and respect for you and other victims of domestic violence victims, but just anybody that's a victim of a crime that hasn't been prosecuted and brought to justice, because it's just got to be the hardest thing to deal with, knowing that you're doing everything that you can, but there's others out there that aren't. Just so tough. I mean, so strong to just go through this day in, day out and just keep up the fight
fighting,
and just know that like it's never over. Like there's not an end to this. Like even if they do, a DA ends up not wanting to present it to a grand jury. Well, you know what? You can always get another DA in there eventually, and maybe one day another DA will. There are some checks and balances with the system for that very reason, that these people aren't in there for life. They're not life appointed to these positions. So maybe the current detective or sheriff, whoever's in charge of the department, doesn't want to do anything that maybe eventually somebody will, and it's just keep that hope alive.
That's something I've thought of, because we've gone through more than one district attorney who has done nothing, but I have thought, okay, if Matt does nothing, then a new one will come in and hopefully then. So I'll at least know there's still an avenue to pursue. I hope it doesn't have to get to that. I hope Matt does the right thing. I really do. But he's somebody who just does not respond. I know my PI team tried to meet with him and he wouldn't meet with them, but he set up a meeting with some assistant and the PI team, but that's about all he would do. So
busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was his thing. He's always, I'm so busy. He was doing some drug case or something. He was busy.
Of course.
Exactly.
Always busy. They're on top of the drug cases, man.
Oh, yeah, he was.
They go after those. I mean, they get those pushed right through, which is always so interesting to me that that's such a priority for so many DAs across the country. Is like, we got to prosecute these people drugs, man. It's ruining it. They're ruining our communities.
That was his excuse. So
it's so messed up. But I think what you've done is the right thing. Getting awareness is so important. And that's why we love doing this, is because we've realized how important this is to, it's one thing to just talk about cases and tell stories and whatnot, but it's another thing to enact real world change in these cases and help people and use our platforms to help people, because no one else is doing it. So, we take that responsibility.
And not only for awareness, but fundraising as well.
Fundraising,
that was really big with the
PI
video that we did.
Huge. I mean, the fact that you've got the PI to get this much information, because it's like the longer you wait to get PI involved in these cases, the worse off you are, because that evidence is going to slowly disappear and deteriorate, or witnesses won't want to come forward or forget. And so the faster you can get, if you're not getting help from the police, the faster you can get a PI team to do that legwork for you and put together that case file for you and kind of gather the information is so important, because then it at least gives sometimes what we've seen police kind of laugh off PIs. They don't take them seriously all the time. Sometimes they're like, because
they get annoyed.
Whatever you're, or they just are like, oh, who are you to tell me how to do my job or whatever. They feel personally offended sometimes by PIs. And that's why finding good PIs is so important. Ones that do have previous law enforcement experience where they've worked.
Which mine does. So
and that's so important, because they'll actually be like, oh, okay, this guy worked for this department. I know that department. It's all about who you know in this world, and having PIs that actually have those connections is so important. So I think just getting that done is a huge step in the right direction, because that's going to ultimately help get it to the finish line. Yeah. And without it, it would be way harder, because then you're now asking them to start from square one, right? And are they going to have the time to go back and do that, or are they going to put that effort in to do it? Who knows?
Right. But a lot of progress has already been made. I mean,
a lot.
Getting the death certificate changed, getting the case reopened, those are all huge things. Getting the PI involved. So now it's about just keep on pushing.
Yep.
Keep the pressure on. Yeah. Keep letting them know, hey, we're waiting on you. And there's a lot of other people now who are waiting to hear what happens with this.
Yeah. And they're going to let you know.
And, if it doesn't go our way, just be prepared for the backlash you're going to get, and just the disappointment of so many people.
Yeah.
And obviously you and your family. I mean, it's just, I just don't understand how you can do that job and not feel personally responsible for letting these families down, knowing that you've got family members out there that are sitting around waiting for you to just get back to them on an update, or to bring, push this as far as you can. I just don't understand it. And
I don't either. It takes, seconds to pick up a phone and dial and be like, I'm real busy right now, but I wanted to just let you know, I am working on it. I've done this and this, some things you can't release publicly, fine. But, the most he could do is just tell us, I'm working on it. I haven't forgot. And just, that's it. Like just a phone call.
Yeah.
Anything other than nothing that we're getting right now. And that's what's frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we can apply a little bit of pressure to just sort of keep that at the, keep this case at the forefront of their priorities. Because I'm sure if you were to get a hold of them, like, oh, well, we're so busy. We're working on all these cases. So we'll get around to it when we can. But it's like, we've been waiting, we've been waiting a long time for something to happen in this it's just such a clear, it just seems like such a clear cut case to just push to the finish line. Like, why not just do it? Why not take a really bad individual off of the streets and prevent further crimes and victims? And it just doesn't make sense.
So around 90,000 people have already signed the petition.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Let's get that over 100 and beyond. And I'm sure your mom can resend that out to senators, congressmen, and let them know that people are still actively wanting help. But she did send it to them when you hit, I think, how many signatures?
Oh, goodness. What was it at?
Somewhere.
Was it 70?
Something
Between
like
50
that.
and 70.
But even that, no one, did you get any response, or did they didn't technically decline to help, but they didn't even reply.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Which is just another hit, that it's sad when it becomes an expected thing, like I would be completely shocked
if they were
if I got a
actually
response.
Right. Yep.
Have you guys reached out to the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation?
No, I don't think we've done that one.
They might be a good one to reach out to.
Send a petition to.
Yeah, we've seen in other cases like this that sometimes if because there's kind of a food chain, obviously, with the law enforcement, but so like the State Bureau of Investigation's kind of like, I guess you'd say, like FBI of the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
And sometimes they will get involved or provide resources
Sometimes
where needed. Yeah, I mean, no guarantees by any means, but I just think like anybody else you can get involved. Like the Attorney General is another good one, trying to make him aware of the case. And
these are all good people to tag on Twitter.
Because sometimes if stuff's not happening at that local level, like sometimes you got to go up the step higher, and the State Bureau of Investigation is a good place to just at least reach out and be like, hey, here's my situation. Here's what's going on. Can you provide any assistance? Is there anything? And sometimes, I mean, we've seen sometimes they get involved and at least, kind of poke a little bit and be like, hey, reach out to them and be like, can we help? Okay. And just sometimes making the local guys aware that there's other bodies
aware
that are also aware, and kind of that's on their radar now, that sometimes that can help spur them in the right direction a little bit.
Okay. Definitely.
That's something to look into at least, because
absolutely.
I mean, why not exhaust all resources?
Right.
Every single opportunity you can to get this in front of somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody out there who's gonna take it seriously eventually and do the right thing. I mean, I'm by no means like anti law enforcement. I think there's definitely good people out there in law enforcement that do the right thing and are sympathetic with victims' families and want to do the right thing. You just got to find them sometimes, because there's so many ones out there that just don't care, or just at least present themselves in that way, that it's really easy to lose faith and trust in law enforcement. And sometimes you just it just takes finding the right person. And hopefully the new guy working on it is sincere in what he's telling you, that he is taking this personally.
I hope so.
And so let's hold him to it.
Definitely.
So, Michelle, can you tell us ways that people can not only help, but reach out to you, connect with you, and what they can do to make a difference in this case?
Yeah. One thing is we have a Justice for Melissa Platt Facebook page, and I post updates there. I also have a Twitter. It's Justice for M Platt. And I post updates there as well. I do have a private Facebook group that I've created as well, but I have a link to that on the main Justice for Melissa Platt Facebook page, so you can join that as well. But I like to post updates through all of those different social media accounts. And then, of course, we have the petition that's there, and we've had, I think you said 90,000 at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be so great to get over 100,000 and beyond. I'll definitely send that to the, North Carolina FBI.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get that done as well. And we've always had a GoFundMe for private investigation fees and all that. So that's another ways. I mean, that has been crucial in us even being able to hire one. And the investigation is still going on. I'm not sure at this point how long it's going to keep going on. But those are the different ways and different counts we've set up to provide updates and all that.
And again, if you want to email these people, several people that we've mentioned, tweet at them. I don't know if we'll be able to have a phone number, but we'll kind of see. We'll put information in the description box for you guys to, take action on that and start bothering these people.
Yeah, any calls to, the district attorney, Matt Delbridge, or the chief deputy of Lenore County, Ryan Dawson, any calls to them would be, thank you so much if you're able to do that. It would mean a lot.
Yeah, and as much as we all want to call them and, give them a piece of our mind, like what's helpful, what's helpful is politely, it goes a long way, like, even though they're not necessarily giving us that same respect, but if you give them some respect and say, I politely ask that you look into the case of Melissa Platt.
Trying to remain professional,
be respectful and polite. Exactly.
That way they're not just like delete.
Right. Not just like shouting at them or obscenities, nothing like that. Nothing like that would be helpful to us at all. Just, are you looking into this? Just polite. That would be so helpful.
And just showing support for Michelle and your family. And just, we're here to support her in the fight for justice for Melissa. I mean, that's all you need to say. You don't need to, go into a whole other thing or, personal thoughts.
That is a good point.
And just, if you keep it professional in that world, it will go a lot farther than just, like you said, just random things. Or
if you end up sending out a tweet or an email, we'll have some type of example drafted that you can kind of go off of.
Yeah.
It does nobody any good if you just get blocked or put in a spam folder and stuff. You want to be taken serious.
Which I get it. I mean, I normally get angry and I start tweeting mean things, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point, Josh. Thanks for saying that.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for coming all the way out. You have a flight tonight, right?
I do.
Was it your first time coming to Colorado?
Yes, first time.
Big airport.
It is a very big airport. It took me a minute to figure out how to even get out to like the Uber Lyft area where they pick up. But no, not too bad. I mean, Houston Intercontinental is pretty crazy too. So kind of used to that.
It's a pretty big airport too.
Yeah, that is.
It is.
Did you see any of the like DIA conspiracy posters that they have out there?
I did not. I wanted to look, from all the things I've seen. I wanted to see the crazy horse statue.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a chance to.
You should see it on the way coming in. It's like outside of the airport. When you take your Uber in,
it'll be on
probably
your left.
on your left side.
Yeah, leaving it, you don't really see it, but coming into it, you'll see.
Oh, nice.
You'll see them. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to snap a pic.
Yeah, they had actual ads. Like they did a whole ad campaign about the conspiracies and kind of like worked it into their whole
that
thing.
They might be harboring aliens and UFOs.
Are they embracing the whole thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
kind of trolling people back.
Yeah.
I see. That's great.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
You are such an inspiring person.
Oh my
Truly,
goodness.
what you have done is just unbelievable. It's really remarkable, the progress that you've been able to get. I mean, just even getting in touch with all of these people who have helped you and gotten your story out there. And I don't know if I'd have the strength to keep going the way that you have. So just huge props to you and your whole family.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
And doing this really motivates us. Like, this really gives us that fire to like really keep doing what we do, and helps us, because sometimes we feel like we're talking into just the abyss sometimes, or into the internet. Yeah, we're just like, like sometimes we feel like down. We have our days too where we're like, are we making a difference? Are we doing anything?
Or just feeling like our system's so messed up, it's frustrating. So it's nice to see some progress actually being made.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it helps us like keep going and help more people. And so, we love doing this, and you're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you. Yes. And y'all help so many people, and y'all are inspiration to me too. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah,
our pleasure.
It really was.
But yes, make sure everybody go check out the description, the show notes for all the information on Melissa and all the ways that you can help in the fight for justice. But we will wrap up today's episode there, and we will see you all next time.